one pound, please leave the chamber to find the nearest door, and follow the illuminated fire exit signs and assemble in the car park at the rear of the building. You have the right to film this meeting if you so wish. I would like to know before we begin whether anyone in the room plans to do this. If you intend on filming the meeting or part of it, would you please indicate now? The first item on the evening's agenda is apologies for absence. We have received apologies from Councillor Birch, Fielding, Hay, Lindsay, Maloney, Rayner, Smith and Sorrison, and Mr. B. Steve Stevenson. Is there any more apologies?
Madam Councillor Molina should be on that list as well.
Yeah, I have said that.
Oh, did you?
Sorry, yeah, Molina. Yeah. Another one to do? Oh, right, no. Sorry. Okay. The next item on the agenda is a confirmation of minutes. Can I please have the proposal that the minutes of the council meeting held on Thursday, the 26th of October 2023 be approved as a correct record?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I propose.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does anybody want to comment on the factual accuracy of the minutes or propose any amendment? So would those members present on the 26th of October meeting who are in favour of confirming that the minutes as a correct record, please clearly indicate. Yes. The minutes of the 26th of October meeting are confirmed. The next item on the agenda is item 3, the declaration of interest. I need to remind you that on the 16th of March 2023, the Standards Committee passed a resolution granting a dispensation to all councillors to participate in and vote on the setting of the council's LCTS for the purpose of the Local Government Finance Act 2012 on the grounds that it is in the interest of persons living in the borough as many members as possible to be able to debate and decide on this issue. Councillors do not therefore need to declare any interest in agenda item 10 just because they receive localised council tax support. On that basis, does any members or officers have any interest to declare on the items included on the agenda? No. Okay, the next item is item 4, announcements, and the leader of the council, Councillor Vincent, would you like to say a few words about the late Honorary Alderman Patricia Catholic, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's with great sadness that I learned of the passing of Honorary Alderman Catholic. Reverend Squires has said some nice words about her already, so I'll keep it reasonably brief. In fact, served the council as a councillor, including as leader and mayor for many years before becoming an alderman. She retired from the council before I came on, but I'm told from those who were on with her that she firmly believed in that she'd done a bit for the council and she was going to let somebody else have a turn, which is a real shame really, because the council could have benefited from that service for another 20 years or so. She'll be very missed, much missed amongst Conservative members, and you wouldn't believe that she hadn't been a councillor for 20 years given how active she remained within the party. Great service to the borough, great service to us as Conservatives, and we thank her very much for it, and may she rest in peace.
Thank you, then kind words, Councillor Vincent. The next item is item 5, public questions or statements. However, there are no questions from the public this evening. The next item is a questions on notice from councillors. There is one question on notice, which is in your agenda pack. Councillor Wells, your question is written in full in the agenda. Can we take it as read? Yes. Okay. Councillor Lamaranel, would you want to respond to that, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Wells, for your question. prior to the inclusion of the site in the 2019 local plan housing allocations. The site is covered by a site allocation policy SA 1/3, land between Fleetwood Road North and Pheasant Wood Thornton, which amongst other things has key development consideration KDC 8 covering archaeological matters. Specifically, KDC 8 states, there is evidence of archaeological interest, and as such, any development should be informed by an appropriate survey to determine the nature of this interest, its importance and need for any mitigation measures. The specific inclusion of this within the policy is adequate consideration for the allocation of the site in the local plan. The local plan also includes policy CDMP5, Historic Environment, which amongst other things covers archaeology and scheduled monuments. Again, this is adequate consideration of the archaeology of Bourne Hill and all development cited within the borough. Number 2, prior to the 2019 redesignation from a cemetery or crematorium to development land. In the previous local plan, July 1999, the site was unallocated land, often referred to as white land. It therefore had no protection as countryside, burial ground, cemetery or crematorium. The site was first formally proposed as a site for housing development in July 2015. This is the earliest document planning hold in relation to this site for housing development. It was not considered any further for a crematorium or cemetery, as there was considered to be many years worth of space left in current cemeteries. Number 3, prior to the 2021 Cabinet decision to sell the land. Not wanting to reiterate my answer, I've already given, but this I've already covered in part 1 of the answer, 2019 being chronologically before 2021. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Wells, you now have the opportunity to ask a supplementary question, which must be arise directly out of the original questions for Councillor Maronell's reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, my supplemental question is, thank you very much for that response, and we do understand that obviously prior to the local plan the archaeology was identified. I think the issue is, was that archaeology really considered, adequately considered before the sale of the land in respect of understanding whether or not there was heritage that needed to be protected or further investigated? And obviously there's no mention in the Cabinet report for that sale of the land meeting, and obviously that's where we're asking if adequate consideration was actually given. That's the supplemental question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to that one, please?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, and thank you, Madam Mayor. CDMP 5 is the criteria 11 and 13. 12 is for nationally important archaeology, which states, number 11, where development affecting sites of known archaeological interest is acceptable in principle, preservation in situ is the preferred solution. Where preservation in situ is not justified or possible, the developer will be required to make appropriate and satisfactory provision for the excavation and recording of the remains, and to agree a timetable for the publication of findings before development commences. Number 13 states, development affecting locally important archaeological remains and their setting will only be permitted if it is demonstrated that the public benefit of the development outweighs the local value of the remains. The developer will be required to provide a programme of investigation and recording of the remains and a timetable for the publication of findings agreed. This is why the Planning Committee imposed Condition 20 on 22/00762, and the developer is currently applied to discharge it. LCC's independent archaeology specialists have completed the investigation. The fines do not outweigh the public benefit of the development, and the developer submitted a timetable for the publication of the findings, approximately 2 years. We have been advised by LCC that this is acceptable and that the development should commence. We have not yet discharged this condition, but will do so very soon. What I would add, however, is that what residents should be worried about is the statements from Keir Starmer. In a recent interview with Victoria Derbyshire, Sir Keir Starmer pledged to tear up the planning rules and build 1.5 million homes over the next 5 years. Sir Keir Starmer said, and I quote, "The UK must get real about where we're going to build to solve the housing crisis," as he said Labour pledged to review rules building on the Greenbelt. In a further interview with Ian King on Sky News, Sir Keir Starmer vowed to back the builders, not the blockers, by building more homes on the Greenbelt land. Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, in an interview said, we need to have common sense approach where we look again at what is designated Greenbelt. Residents in Bourne Ward should be very worried about what would happen to the Greenbelt either side of a mountainous way going all the way up to the Eros roundabout if Labour get into power. In fact, the residents of the whole of Wyre should be very concerned about the Greenbelt if Labour ever win power. Thank you very much for your question. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the next item, which is the executive reports. A polite reminder that each speaker has 3 minutes only, and there will be 10 minutes of speaking overall for each. Executive reports, please clearly indicate by raising your hand if you wish to speak. So the first report, the leader of the council. So Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got a few updates to give. I attended the signing of the combined authority deal in Lancaster on Sunday. It was a typically grand affair and quite a regal building. It was quite impressive. It was very well done. Certainly beats County Hall, and it's nice for LCC to go out to one of the districts for once. So that was nice to see. Disappointingly poorly attended by district leaders. There were only the 3 Conservatives and the chap from Lancaster there, and he wouldn't be in any photographs. Other than that, Madam Mayor, we've got an update on the Poulton-le-Fylde Theatre. I can't say too much because we've got processes to follow through, other than to say we've had some really good responses on the Poulton-le-Fylde Theatre. There's some very serious players, very serious people interested in taking it over, and they've got a really clear vision for not just how to take it off us, but how to make it blossom into what we know it can be, and somebody else can make it. And we hope to deliver something similar to that if that's where we decide to go for the Marine Hall. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Fail, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regard to the Lancashire deal, I wasn't sure what the fanfare for the creation of the County Combined Authority was going to sound like. As it turned out, it wasn't very pleasing on the ear. In fact, it was barely audible here in Wyre. Maybe that shouldn't have been a surprise, as only 3 of the band were allowed to play, with the other 12 barred from playing by an off-key government. It's not surprising this behind closed doors deal, providing us with very little, has left many brassed off. After all, Wyre's funding from the out-of-tune government has reduced by 77% over the last 13 years. So with that in mind, what does the leader think of the paltry £20 million provided as part of this undemocratic deal, a deal that equates to £13 a resident for the 1.5 million residents in the county, and a drop in the ocean compared to what the Conservative government has taken away? Are we meant to feel grateful?
I really genuinely don't understand what he's going on about with people not being allowed to play, so that's completely lost on me. Isn't it a really good endorsement of everything we've achieved with this borough that we are top of the league for financial stability? We've had 70% of our budget cut. Don't we do well with our finances? It's difficult. We roll our sleeves up and we get on with it. I'm not sure how it's undemocratic when the upper tier authorities who were democratically elected have agreed the deal. And when it comes to, do I think it's a good deal? And yes, it's not mind-blowing. There's not going to be any fanfare for it. It's 20 million. It's not enough. We all know that. But it's 20 million times better than the alternative.
Councillor Beavers, please.
Thank you. A letter was sent to the government last Friday from 8 of the 12 districts against the devolution deal. It's telling that you decided not to join the majority of the districts in petitioning the government about the failings of the devolution deal, being that your dad's in charge of it all. That takes away the UK SPF money and the voice of the districts. No vote is no voice. This deal is about electioneering for the Conservatives in the general election year. It has nothing to do with what is best for the people of Wyre, but what sells this failing Conservative government. You're trying to hoodwink the people of Wyre by selling this as a great deal. It's not, and you know it's not. I see you and I see your con. The people of Wyre will see right through this and will see your con as well. We see you and we see your election campaign.
Madam Mayor, at County Hall on Monday, she voted for the deal. Hovering on my backside.
Point of order, Madam Mayor, I voted
For the deal.
I never
For the deal.
Tosh, the deal and the vote for the deal is on the 24th of March, just before the general election.
What did you do? What did you vote on Lancashire Day, Councillor Beavers? Did you vote for or against?
I
Did you vote
voted
for or
for the
against?
deal to be put before the people of
Thank you.
Lancashire,
Thank you.
not for the deal. Get the facts right.
Right, thank you. Councillor Wells, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, in relation to the Lancashire devolution deal, on what grounds has it been determined that this report should not be circulated further at this time and shared more widely with this council, particularly as it is suggested that there may be 2 district council representatives on the new county combined authority? How can members of this chamber be expected to demonstrate democratic accountability for the significant restructuring being proposed under the devolution deal without having sight of the detail? Could you also clarify who is the nominated district leaders chair and vice chair for this council, and when we might expect the time will come for this document to be shared? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So, I'll answer the question in good faith, Madam Mayor, but there's no restructure. There's no restructure at all of local government as a result of this. There's a new layer on top of it that's going to sit on top. In terms of the document, I'm not too sure which document you're referring to, Councillor Wells, but in terms of district representation, it isn't clear how that's going to work yet. There will be two district representatives on the full combined authority. Now, today we had a Lancashire leaders meeting where we were going to talk about what that might look like, and the Labour leaders boycotted it. Alistair Bradley came in, read out a pre-prepared statement on behalf of them all, and then left. So they didn't turn up, they didn't talk about anything, they literally just took the ball home and just left. So there can't be any conversations about it. Now, when there are 2 representatives on there, it will be 1 Conservative and 1 Labour because it has to be politically balanced. There will have to be a mechanism for how they are elected, in effect. My preference will be that there would be 1 district, 1 vote for whoever you want as your representative. So in effect, the 4 Conservatives would vote for the Conservative member, the Independent can vote for whoever he wants, and the Labour members would vote for their own Labour representative. But that's not clear because we haven't been able to discuss it because it didn't turn up today. So we do need to get this sorted, and we need to make sure it's in situ before the shadow authority commences, which is going to be, if everything goes according to plan, in about October next year. There will be an overview and scrutiny committee that must be set up before at the same time as the shadow authority, so that we can have proper scrutiny of the executive. I don't like the overview and scrutiny makeup that's in the deal because it's only got 1 member, and that will then be Labour. And if they get something they don't like, they might turn up, read a speech and leave. But what can we do about that?
Councillor Cartridge, please.
Yes, I'd just like to bring it back to Wyre. Looking at 5.1, I just want to say I'm pleased I am to see this taking place. I went up to Fleetwood the other day and the £3.9 million improvement works look really good. But also, can I just say how pleased I am about the council's support for the market stall holders. It's been really good, and I think that's that should be commended to this council's commitment to Fleetwood.
Thank you, Councillor Cartridge. I have to say as well that without taking difficult decisions such as the sale of the land at Poulton-le-Fylde, we wouldn't have the money to do this stuff. We wouldn't have the money to implement our climate change agenda. So we do have to take difficult decisions, and this is one of the rewards of doing so.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Baxter, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It might have been answered linked to Councillor Wells' question, but it might wish to add to it, Leader. So it's just linked back to district membership. Essentially, how will district leaders be chosen in the first instance, and how will rotation take place so that each district would get a turn, or would it be under the Conservative Labour way that you've just proposed? Thank you.
So it would have to work sort of with a group function in effect, so that we would have a Conservative group leader. At the moment, district leaders meet and there is a Labour chair and a Conservative vice chair, but the district leaders doesn't have any legal identity, so any constitution of the combined authority couldn't refer to that. So there has to be a mechanism chosen. There will also be representation on subcommittees, which is where the interesting work will take place. The nitty-gritty, the shaping of policy, etc. There'll be more district representation on that than there will be on the main committees. So that's our opportunity to have real influence. We hope that there will be 16 members of each committee, and that there would be, of those, at least 4 from the districts, which would likely be 2 Labour, 2 Conservative, perhaps 3 Labour. Who knows what the makeup will be, it's a political balance, but we would have representatives on those, and the chances are that myself as leader or a member of the cabinet will get to sit on at least one of those committees. So we have the opportunity to shape policy at its early stages. And we also have a duty to start working better with our partners, and by that I mean our neighbours. We don't have the same relationship with Blackpool that Fylde do, and that's something we're looking to address.
Thank you for that, Councillor Vincent. That's obviously the 10 minutes up for that, so that concludes the consideration of the leaders' report. We'll now move on to the report of the resources portfolio holders. So, Councillor McKay, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report's before members. The only point I'd like to add is the officers have been successful in securing an additional £101,000 in household support funding. It's excellent news for the residents of Wyre, and as always, the officers, as soon as they receive the money, they'll seek to get this out to those on the lowest incomes, food banks, etc. So that's really good news. But happy to take any questions. Councillor Knowles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's really great news about the extra funding, and it's fantastic that so far you reported that £239,000 of the £860,000 had so far been distributed. And I'm aware that the scheme is on the Wyre Council website, and I've also received a couple of press releases that are pushing out the opportunity. I just wondered if the portfolio holder could just give me a little bit more detail as to whether we've actually followed the government guidance to advertise the scheme, and particularly the application-based element of the provision through various channels, not just online. For example, community hubs, GP surgeries. I also spoke to the local social prescribing team, and they were unaware of the household support fund. So I'm just really looking at thinking about how we distribute that out further to the voluntary community sector, to other organisations that might be in touch with people that might benefit from the scheme. Thank you very much.
To be honest, Councillor, I'm just referring to Claire because I'm not. To be honest, I would have hoped the response to this would have been great and we'd have got the money out quicker, and I think that's what you're referring to. As far as I'm aware, we've potentially not gone down all those avenues, but that is something that I'll speak to Claire about and see if we can look into that, because I'd like to see this money going out to those people as quickly as possible at this time. And if there are some guidelines that we've missed, we want to be addressing those and getting this money out as quickly as possible. So I'll speak to Claire and we'll come back to you if that's okay on that.
That's lovely, thank you.
Fine.
Thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Minto, please.
Madam Mayor, this was actually a question for the leader. I had put my hand up after my two fellow councillors, he missed me. So if you want, I can ask it in either business or I can ask it now.
There was other actually people that missed as well. So 10 minutes was up. When it was the leaders. Okay. Is there any more questions for Councillor McKay? Okay, no. Well, that concludes the consideration of the resources portfolio holders report. We'll now move on to the report of the street scenes, parks and open spaces portfolio holders. So, Councillor Bridge, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report is in front of you. I would just like to mention in particular congratulations really to our Cleaner Greener Projects Officer, Sandra Byrne, who has been given a discretionary award by Britain in Bloom for outstanding contributions to the North West in Bloom. I say it every time, I'll say it again, we have fabulous officers, the workforce is superb, and looking at all these prizes we've got from Britain in Blue, it just blows you away really. It just shows the pride that people have in this beautiful borough and how lucky we are to live here in all parts of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So, Councillor, is this Walton, please?
Walton.
Yeah, thank you. Would you like to?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Councillor Bridge, it's just a question in regards to King George's Field and the new drainage features that have been implemented on there. We've received recent resident complaints about the new drainage features not necessarily being fit for purpose. In fact, quite the opposite. There seems to be pooling water in unwanted places, and where we've actually wanted the water to go, it's not been going at all. So I'm just wondering what the council will be doing to correct this oversight, and will it come at additional cost to residents? Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to respond, please?
Well, thanks for pointing it out. It's the first time I've heard it about this, but we will certainly go down there, have an exploration, see what can be done. We're determined to get King George's Field right. You know, the various things we're doing to it. We want it to work properly. While we're down there working on it, we'll see what we can do. I've spent many an hour stood on there, so I know what the drainage is like, believe you me. We'll go down, have a look, and I'll let you know if that's okay. But it's just the first time I've heard it. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Dulcie Atkins, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was sent a press cutting the other day from a newspaper up in Edinburgh, and the council there, as regards dog mess, are thinking about registering owners with their dogs, but at the same time as when they're registered, they will take a sample of their excrement, so they have that on the DNA, they have that on record, so that when they go round and pick up the various dog messes, they will actually be able to identify who the owner is. And I was just wondering whether we thought about that. I think that people in toilets take them all the time.
Is there a response?
So it's the dog's excrement that takes.
Yes.
You vote.
Happy to look at anything that would help alleviate the terrible problem. Well, it's not a terrible problem at all. It's a problem and it's a terrible thing, but it's not as bad as when I go around. I've travelled quite a bit and some of the areas and towns. But anything that could help us with this problem, but we'd have to look at the various things from cost to legality to you name it. Scotland's a different legal position. But saying that, yeah, I'll look into it. Thank you for pointing it out.
Thank you. Councillor Cartridge, please.
Yes, it's just, thank you, Madam Mayor, it's just a thank you. I had a few phone calls from residents in Great Eccleston about the state of a couple of the streets, and within 4 hours we had Mel Street, our street cleaner, up there cleaning it. So I just want to say a big thank you to Kathy Winstanley. She's efficient as ever. Thank you.
Kathy has been fantastic. I mean, really, everything that we've asked her to do, she's gone above and beyond. She really is superb. And as for Meryl Sweep, well, it speaks for itself. But yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you. Councillor Nichols, please.
Can I ask Councillor Bridge if he'd update us on the ongoing works in Jean Stansfield Park to improve various things?
Thank you, yeah. So, new lighting is actually going in at the moment. All the infrastructure is going in. Hopefully all the infrastructure will be there by Christmas. We have got a supply issue with the tops of the lines. So it may be that it's all there, but we can't turn it on until those caps turn up. But they are on the way, apparently, and as soon as they are, all the lights will be replaced. The other thing is, which is quite nice, with coming up to its centenary, we're doing a lot of serious work on those park gates, the ones on the corner there. They're beautiful things, but I remember as a kid swinging on them, so that's how old they are. We're working on that, and again, that work is going to start before Christmas. So, as ever, we'll keep on top of it. We have some beautiful parks, like the one in Fleetwood I was at the other week, and we'll keep on top of it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Councillor Beavers, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just a question really. It's about I know you're sick of me asking, the Love Clean Streets app that the officers are looking at. I'd just like to update you that I did share it with the Blackpool Council, and they're starting now to use it on a 6-week sort of sort of 6-week basis, and they're inundated with lots of work. They're now wondering whether it was a great thing, because obviously all of this work, but if it brings the area up and everything else, and that they're using it for the fly tipping as well as the potholes and everything else, and it's really so just to sort of advertise it again and say I really do think that Wyre does need to, you know, because not only that, you're bringing the community in, and if you empower the community to complain about the fly tipping and something's getting done, you know, it does help. So I'm really using it, and I'm really finding it very effective, but I would love to be able to do it with fly tipping, because when you're down a back alley you don't know the number on the front street. It is a really good app and it needs looking at. If we can afford it, or we might not be able to afford it, we'll have to wait and see. Thank you.
Good. Well, I think it would be quite a good idea if we could reach out to Blackpool and they've been a guinea pig for 6 weeks and talk to them. I mean, that saves us money if somebody else has done the experimentation. I don't like saying it, if somebody don't reinvent the wheel. So maybe our officers could talk to their counterparts in Blackpool, see how it's worked out for that, and that might help us give us a bit more evidence about if it works or not to our specification or to what our needs.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Mark. Councillor Rush, please.
On the same subject, the Love Clean Streets app, I've used it a lot.
Yeah.
I've recommended it a lot. I've had varying degrees of success with it, and as well as bringing people together, unfortunately some of the time it's actually making people feel I don't want to use it. I've had work put into the Love Clean Streets app. It's come back from Lancashire County Council as being completed, gone down and looked, it's not. So, and some of my residents are getting the same thing. So just to give you a little bit more of a balanced feedback, it seems good. You do feel empowered using it, but you really don't feel empowered when you're getting back feedback saying work completed, you go and look, it's not been attempted. So just to give you a balanced opinion.
Right, well, thank you for that.
Okay, if there's no more questions, that concludes the consideration of the Street Scene, Parks and Open Spaces Portfolios Holders Report. We'll now move on to the report of the Planning Policy and Economic Development Portfolio Holder. So Councillor Marinell, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just before I introduce the report, item 3 is about Wyre Business Awards. I shall say an absolutely massive thank you to all the teams that are involved with that. It was just brilliant. They did an amazing job on the night. A special mention must go to Alex, who was the best umpa-lumper that we've probably ever seen. In character like you've never seen. It was just so good. So yeah, it was a really, really good night, and just my massive thanks to them for putting on such a good show. It was great stuff. My report's in front of Council. Happy to take any questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Duffy, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Marinell. First, I just want to ask you, do you not feel slightly undermined with Councillor Vincent giving updates in his report on an item that is clearly part of your portfolio? Obviously, I understand Councillor Vincent can ask and have anything he wants in his report, but surely, as this was brought up with you specifically at the last meeting, it should have been in your report on this agenda. However, as Councillor Vincent doesn't give any clear indication as to what could be implemented to prevent the further departure of traders, other than comparing of Fleetwood market rents with other local markets, which at this point in time, unless there is evidence of traders deserting Fleetwood for cheaper venues, in my opinion, I will say the rent comparison is totally relevant exercise at this point. And just to update members, since the last full council meeting, there has been 7 more traders that have given notice. An additional 3 traders who normally run a double stall are now renting just single stalls. So together, the equivalent of another 10 losses. What we need now is action, I mean literally now, within the next few days, to prevent any more traders leaving. My suggestion would be, and I know Councillor Vincent's going to grimace at this, to lower the rents, at least until the economy improves, and then you reassess. As surely some rental income is going to be better than none when everyone departs. And again, I know you subsidised rents for some times previously, but I believe to prevent the possible closure of Fleetwood Market, there seems to be few alternatives available. And lowering the cost may encourage traders to remain and hopefully entice back some of those who have already left before there is no coming back from this current exodus and what could possibly be the end of Fleetwood Market as we know it. So, seeing as Councillor Vincent's report is somewhat lacking in detail, perhaps Councillor Marinell, as a portfolio holder, you can enlighten us on your proposals to ensure the future of Fleetwood Market and maintain the traders. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Respond there, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Duffy. No, I have no problem with other cabinet members answering questions. If we can get all the questions answered, that's good. If I missed something off, I'm quite happy for Councillor Vincent to chip in. That's not. I don't have a problem with that. Since we started doing the work, I think I said last time at the last council meeting, we could have closed the home market and just done the work, and that would have been no good to anybody whatsoever. So we kept the market open. We did as much as we possibly could. We spent £500,000 in helping the traders on VAT and rents and all of that type of stuff. So we did do a huge amount that were there. So we did keep it open. That's the main thing. We are looking at service charges, and we are looking at changing the way that's all done as well. It's regrettable that traders are leaving, and we will do everything we possibly can to keep them there, because we want to make sure traders are happy. We want to make sure that they don't just leave, they stay, and we get new traders and they take more stalls. So
you're going to have none left if you don't do something
we won't.
now.
It won't come down. I disagree, Councillor Duffy. It won't come down to that at all. We're going to be doing as much as we possibly can to keep traders there.
54 empty now.
Well, as I said, we're going to do as much as we possibly can to keep them there and enhance it going forward as well. Thank you, Councillor Duffy.
Councillor Fail, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The response to Councillor Wells' supplementary question didn't answer her question in any shape or form, but perhaps it wasn't a surprise, as it was a pre-prepared party political statement after 50 years of this council building on Greenbelt. It really did take the biscuit, that response. But anyway, the question from Councillor Wells was effectively what mention of archaeology was in the 2021 report to Cabinet when the Cabinet agreed to sell the land. Your answer should have been none whatsoever. And so I'll ask, what consideration of archaeology was in the 2019 redesignation report to Council? And I'll give you a clue. It was similar to the later 2021 report that went to Cabinet.
Yeah, thank you. I've answered the question to Councillor Wells. All the details were in there that she needed in the answer. Yeah, they weren't all there in the answer.
None.
They absolutely were. I'm sorry, Councillor Fair, but all the answers that you needed were in the answer came to Councillor Wells. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, Councillor Marinell, that concludes the consideration of the Planning Policy and Economic Development Portfolio Holders Report. We'll now move on to the report of the Neighbourhood Services and Community Safety Portfolio Holders. So, Councillor Berry, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report's before colleagues. I'll do my best to answer any questions.
Councillor Rover, please.
A question on the homelessness prevention section 3.1. First of all, a thank you to officers who work in that service. We've contacted them several times and they're really very proactive and helpful. I noticed at the end you're talking about the national trend for homelessness and that work's ongoing at a strategic level to try and address this. For information, could you give us any more details on that, please?
Okay. Well, I think at our level, we are sort of looking to the local scene, to be quite honest. We have had difficulty in landlords sort of coming out of the market. I'm very much hoping that with the housing allowance being raised locally, that will help the situation. I know from a landlord's perspective, I know it will also help that the government isn't going ahead with this idea of protected tenancies. I know that's not good good for tenants. I'm sure a lot of tenants would like to have that protection, But from a practical point of view in Wyre, having a good supply, I think that will assist that situation to get them back in the market. But I think we've got to look to national government to some help to deal with homelessness, because it is a continuing situation that we've got to attend to. We certainly do our best, but I shall be having a meeting with our officers in about 10 days' time to see how they are dealing with it, because I know there's a lot of work involved in looking after these people who find themselves homeless or under the threat of homelessness, because usually with a lot of them they have other issues and problems to deal with as well, so they can find a suitable tenancy for them. If there is any sort of developments nationally, I will let you know, but I think it's a question of getting more funding from government, to be honest.
Thank you for that. Councillor Belshaw, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, it's with regard to paragraph 3.1 of your report, Councillor Berry. The Housing Options team, I'm sure, are doing all they can to accommodate all those in need. But with the growing number of homelessness presentations and the hidden number of those sofa surfing, isn't it about time this council took steps to bring at least some of the approximately 900 empty houses back into use, therefore providing more options for the Housing Options team and more beneficial actions to residents in need of a place to live?
Please.
To be honest, I'm not aware of that precise figure when you say 900. There are reasons behind. There are reasons in a lot of cases behind that those houses being empty. What we do when we find on the long term, we do try and encourage housing associations and interested landlords to try and see if they're interested in buying them. To be quite honest, that's the only approach that we can take. To be quite honest. It's very, we can't as a council start getting involved in purchasing those sort of properties and doing them at the expense that they would be involved in that. But yes, we do actively try and see if there's something long term not being used, and if it can be picked up by a tenant or possibly a housing association.
Councillor Martin, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know, Councillor Berry, your 4 lines in your report about the fire on the 5th of November at Jubilee Gardens. I don't think this is the full story. I would like to inform the council about what happened that night. There were 8 fire crews, 5 police cars. The promenade was shut and surrounding roads were shut. Local residents were told to close their windows because of toxic fumes. 3 businesses were forced to close that evening: the venue, the cinema and the gym. This was a major fire for our overstretched firefighters on their busiest night of the year. Could I ask Councillor Berry if the businesses forced to close have asked for compensation, and if they have, who's footing the bill? Thank you.
Well, the short answer is I'm not aware of anyone submitting the claim for compensation. I think one of the facts, the actual damage was fairly small, to be quite honest, at the end of the day. And I think what caused a lot of the fire and the smoke that resulted was burning tyres, to be quite honest, on a couple of the vehicles. Fortunately, at the site there wasn't a terrific amount of damage. I think one of the things that it did illustrate, though, and I think this is one of the problems for the fire crews, was the low water pressure in the area, and I hope that the fire and rescue are going to look into that. That meant they had to bring quite a few fire engines to the scene to address that, and I very much hope that they can work with you to make sure that that sort of incident doesn't come to light in another fire. But I take the point that it was very distressing for residents and people locally in the scene, because the video of it was quite graphic, to say the least. But fortunately the damage didn't turn out to be as bad as we feared at first glance.
Councillor Higginson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's on homelessness, Councillor Berry, very quickly. This time of year, of course, with the temperatures dropping, it's a great concern to us all, I would have thought, about providing some kind of warm shelter provision. Now, I'm well aware that the County Council do provide some comfort to those in need, and also the Town Council as well. I was wondering if there is something that we might be able to do in addition to that, particularly in view of the cold temperatures that we're currently experiencing. I heard only this week about a family that's actually sleeping in a car, and I couldn't imagine what that must be like, sleeping in one night in a car. And they've enjoyed the provision of warm shelter in the library in Fleetwood. But I was wondering, is there anything we can do when the temperature's as cold as they are, in addition to this? And I'm not suggesting that we distribute tents to everybody, because I know that might be insensitive to some people in this council chamber. But do you have any views on this, where we can try and improve provision for everyone in need during this cold snap?
I think we already do our best to help those who are in this sort of situation. I mean, if we receive a report that there is somebody, living on the street like that, we send an officer to go and see them and see what we can do to help. We try and seek that they want to help work with us for accommodation. But some of them, sadly, do not want to do that. But those that do want help, then we do assist them, and we do respond to reports ASAP. We don't like to think that people are going to be on the streets for any length of period of time. We do our utmost to deal with it speedily as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rushford, please. We've only got a couple of minutes left, actually, so I've got questions quick, please.
Councillor Berry, this is to do with community safety again. Now, in Nut End, there are lots of narrow streets, bungalows, and people, as they do, have started en masse parking on pavements. And as we know, that restricts prams, wheelchairs, etc. But what's just been brought to my attention is a recently partially sighted gentleman has come to me because he doesn't feel he can negotiate that with his new lack of sight, really. So I just wonder, are you the person that would perhaps be able to send some parking attendants around there?
No.
Is that a no?
Yeah, it's all. This has been a long-standing issue, to be quite honest, and really it is down to the LCC. It's their roads, their pavements. So I think you should direct it to them. There are areas of the country where they do have legislation strictly forbidding you to park on pavements, and I understand the frustration that a wheelchair or a pram or a pushchair can't get through. It does, yeah, and a blind person. It does make it very difficult. Equally, I can understand the wish of some drivers not to obstruct the road. It's getting the balance right, but the pavement should be free of obstruction, and if it is a danger, then you can report it to the police. If it's an obstruction that's dangerous, it's a traffic hazard, it can be reported, and if it makes it difficult for pedestrians, I take the view that you can report that to the police.
So could I report that to our PCS?
I think you could and should, and see if they will assist you on that.
The response is there, is it, Councillor? That, yes. Well, that actually concludes the consideration of the Neighbourhood Service and Community Safety Potholes report. We'll now move on to the report for the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio holder. So, Councillor Bowen, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report's before councillors. There's just one thing I'd like to add, and that's a big thank you to Carol Southern and her team for the hard work they put into organising the children's clubs when it's the school holidays. They're very popular and they've increased in participation figures hugely since it first began. The team has been recognised by LGIU for its hard work for the children of Wyre. And so I'd just like to say a big thank you to Carol and the team. Thank you.
I've got Councillor Baxter, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to read item 5.2 linked to funding energy usage and others at the swimming pool. It's a shame some of it couldn't be used to heat this chamber. And item 5.3 links to the capital fund, which is really interesting because it could help with to reduce long-term energy use costs and also reduce our carbon footprint. Please could you go into a bit more detail about what is proposed, and does this cover all leisure centres? Thank you.
On that, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it does cover all leisure centres. We put in a bid, and hopefully we'll get 3/4 of it like we did for the other bid. This is for energy use, and so we're hoping to replace the gas boilers, LED lights, and triple glaze the pools and halls.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Wells, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was really great to see in the report that under 4.1 and 4.2 that an updated needs assessment has been conducted with the voluntary, community and faith sector in terms of their needs. And as we know, as part of the Conservative government's approach to try and mitigate the impacts of austerity to public services, it has been emphasised that the voluntary and community and faith sector are really important in the delivery of services, and we really saw that during the coronavirus pandemic. However, obviously there's been a huge slashing of funding to the third sector for training, for funding and bid writing, all of the essential things that we need to work in partnership with the voluntary and community sector to bring that money into Wyre. So it's great to see the consultation and wanting to know what's next and how sustainable is the support to the voluntary and community sector as we go forward. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing that we're trying to contact most of the volunteers and the sector that it's a massive actually big piece of work. So when I find out exactly what they're wanting from that consultation, I'll let you know.
Thank you for that. Councillor Beavers, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to, in this chamber, thank the staff of the Marine Hall, who were absolutely amazing on our bonfire night. We couldn't have done it without them. And the festive light switch on this Saturday, they're absolute stars. They go above and beyond. And I forgot to thank the staff of the Memorial Park, who were also absolutely amazing on the 11th of November when we had our Remembrance Day parade. At 7 in the morning they were planting flowers round the cenotaph, cleaning up all the leaves and everything else, and I'd just like to say that it's very much appreciated all that they've done in the last month in Fleetwood for each event that the town council has led on, that we've managed to get it done, and I'd just like to say here and now, the stars. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Beavers. It's nice to know that they're appreciated, and I'm sure they'll be very pleased that they brought it up in Council Agenda. Thank you.
Okay, is there any more questions for Councillor Bowen? No? Well, that concludes the consideration of the Leisure Sport and Community Engagement Portfolio Holders Report. Now is the opportunity for members of the Cabinet to make comments or ask questions on the report of their colleagues. So, any members? Councillor Vincent?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a question for Councillor Marinell. Councillor Marinell, do you agree with me that Councillor Duffy's reference to Fleetwood Market being at risk of closure is utterly shameful? Do you agree with me that scaremongering like this could harm the market in Fleetwood? Is he aware that there are 19 stalls empty of 185, and so a little over 10%? Does he agree that it is wholly unnecessary to panic and breed fear amongst market traders when there is an occupancy rate of around 90%?
Just say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk to the whole
Marilyn, would you like to respond there, please? Thank you.
Absolutely.
I could just say yes, but yeah, I totally agree. It is skillful for the storeholders, it's unfair to do that. No, I don't think it is the storeholders that are doing it at all. It's just a political statement to make, basically. It's as simple as that.
So that concludes the consideration of the executive reports. We'll now move on to the agenda item 8, which is a council plan. So Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report and proposed recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This has been a lot of hard work, and I have to thank all the officers who've been involved, particularly our new Chief Executive, Rebecca. She's started from scratch with this. We ripped up the old one and built a new one, and it's taken a long time and lots of different drafts, and she's had to put up with me in formal meetings that I'm sure she wouldn't like. It's a very thorough plan. We took it to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. We got feedback, including from our friends opposite, and we fed that in to the plan. So we've tried to listen to everybody's views, and we've tried to build a plan that represents all the different areas of the borough, the targets of the borough. I think that the thing that I'm most proud of in the plan is the section on being innovative and customer focused, because it's all well and good having a plan, but not having a plan on how you're going to do it and how you're going to implement it and how you're going to get the message out there means it's not much of a plan, really, is it? So I'm take great pleasure in proposing it to members, and we ask you all to vote for it. Thank you very much.
Is there a seconder for the proposal?
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
Are there any comments or questions or amendments?
Yeah, okay. I just I spoke to Councillor Fail earlier in the week. The Constitution on this basically says that when Labour propose amendments, and you've got them before you now, or anybody proposes an amendment, that you've got 5 minutes to speak to an amendment and then debate it and then vote on it. Well, there's 4, and then there's 2 from the independents, so we'd be here quite a long time. Nobody wants that. So instead, Rob is going to have a limited amount of time to introduce the 4 amendments that they wish to make, and then there'll be a debate, 5 minutes per person in the usual way. Thanks.
Councillor Fail, so like you said, there's no limit on this, so would you like to put that forward, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Vincent said about the hard work that's gone into it. I appreciate it's completely changed from previously. There's some new bits which are very good. In fact, at March's budget meeting, I said, unless the business plan is right, the council's strategy will not be correctly set. And if the strategy is not set correctly, monies may not be spent effectively. So the move to review and approve this plan earlier than at the March budget time is therefore welcomed. The naming of the council's business plan has always been a bit of a misnomer, so the move to a council plan more accurately reflects what the council should be at least trying to achieve, not just over the next few years, but also the longer term. This is something the Labour group has been seeking and again is therefore welcomed. An immediate plan for the next 4 years is fine, but we also need a plan for the next 10, 20 and even 50 years, a framework that doesn't put future councils in the straitjacket this council has been left with by a previous mindset of only looking at the here and now. I'll give you a couple of examples. The borough where all the major towns have an acknowledged shortfall of public open space. And in the case of Cleveland, a town without any formal playing fields. This is caused by a lack of vision for the future and a framework that has utterly failed. Another example is a rail line reinstatement that, without further work, is currently restricted to the outskirts of Fleetwood. It would be unforgivable for this council not to try to rectify these past mistakes. For the benefit of future generations in Wyre, there needs to be an end to short-termism. Housing shouldn't be allowed to go anywhere. It has to be within a recognised framework. That framework requires the provision of a decent transport system, jobs and public open space. Without such an adhered to framework, you end up with a quarter of our wards being in the bottom 10% for deprivation. So something must change. In terms of the rail line, the priority must be to reinstate it as far as it is currently possible. But we must also future-proof the rail line reinstatement by finding and then guaranteeing a route to extend the line for a future phase that reaches the heart of Fleetwood. To not do so limits the potential economic regeneration of Fleetwood, Thornton-Cleveley and Wyre in general. It's not the same scale, but the effectiveness of an HS2 line from Birmingham to London is diminished by plans to stop the line 6 miles short of Euston at Old Oak Common. Similarly, the effectiveness of a mains lane bypass to Windy Harbour is diminished because of the single lane road at either end. When I asked Highways England if the Windy Harbour to the M55 route was future-proofed, the answer was no. Well, for 150 million quid, it should have been. Whatever the cost of current reinstatement plans, Wyre Council, and indeed Network Rail, has a duty to ensure that the reinstatement is effective as it can be, and that means ensuring a possible future extension to the centre of Fleetwood that serves businesses along that route and maximises the future potential for Fleetwood's regeneration. It is noted that the preparation for this new council plan included development of a big issue briefing paper. I'm sure councillors will be keen to know whether that briefing paper recognised that a quarter of Wyre's wards are in the bottom 10% for deprivation in terms of training, skills and education, employment, income and health. Irrespective of the content of that briefing paper, what councillors will be even more keen to know is where are the plans to specifically tackle the deprivation issues. Para 5.3 of the report talks about emerging priorities. The deprivation has been there a long while, so although not emerging, it certainly should be a priority. There should be commitments in the new plan to tackle these issues. For instance, no one doubts tackling loneliness and isolation will help improve quality of life. But the quality of life of individuals would also improve if deprivation was formally tackled, improving employment prospects and improving income levels. It's tackling these things that will help Wyre's town centres to thrive. You can't just make town centres thrive in isolation. It's about residents having more disposable income, and it's also about attracting more visitors. On that point, it is pleasing to see that the Wyre Labour Group push for the tourism strategy to be put in place has been taken on board. Moving on to a current concern of a couple of thousand local residents, there is a perception by some that this council did not properly consider the archaeology at Bourne Hill during the development of the current local plan, prior to the redesignation from a cemetery and when considering the sale of the land, heritage that we now appear to be losing. In recent years, we've also seen the loss of Fleetwood's historic pier, the loss of the Bernays pub, and the destruction of a once great Jubilee Gardens in Cleveley. Consequently, we believe there is a need to formally consider heritage in all decision making to reduce the likelihood of heritage being overlooked or bypassed. And on a very final note, following Councillor Bowen's report to Council, the Labour Group wished to ensure voluntary community and faith sector is better supported. With all that in mind, the Labour Group wished to propose the 4 amendments viewable on your tablet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Vale. Is there a seconder for the amendment that has been proposed? No, thank you. Yeah. Do any members wish to speak for or against the amendment? Yeah, 5. Thank you, Councillor Vincent. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Start by saying that I thank Councillor Vale for the couple of positive bits he said at the start about the local plan, and certainly the comments that we received on it overview and scrutiny were a lot more positive than that. And it's really unfortunate, and we say this every time, they're free to bring these amendments forward at full council, but the problem is that we then don't have time to actually look at them and cost them and consider whether we can actually implement them in practice. And that's the situation we've got tonight. So you've got your 4 amendments, I'll take them one at a time, I'll be brief. Ultimately, it feels like they've seen reference to the voluntary community and faith sector in the report, and that's where this has come from, because they've never really mentioned it before. And it's nothing but it tonight. It's not clear to say what infrastructure support means. What are we giving them here? What are we actually committing to? That's not clear, and we can't change the council plan to include something that isn't clear. In terms of the additional commitment to reduce deprivation, they did mention the settled scrutiny, and the problem with it is that's just a grand statement. If we say we will reduce deprivation, we sit there and we watch the deprivation figures and we go, no, they're not going down, because actually what do we do about them? And the issue here is there's no proposal to tackle deprivation, there's just a statement that we will do that. Well, that's, again, not something to go into a local plan. There's plenty in the plan that will tackle deprivation, like economic development, like improving town centres. Economic development and growth for the borough will reduce deprivation. Day follows night, night follows day. In terms of heritage, what do they mean by heritage? The way Councillor Fayl presents the report, it sounds very much like what he means is in planning we'll consider heritage before we'll give planning permissions. That's a matter for a local plan, not a council plan. And finally, Madam Mayor, we have always been deliberately non-committal on the railway because it is a decision that is out of our hands. And if we turn around to government and say we will only accept heavy rail and then manage to give us light rail, they might say, well, they don't want it. So I don't accept any of them. I would encourage all members to vote against all 4. And I would encourage Labour next time to come to ONS with these proposals, with some substance behind them, so that we can consider them and cost them and try and actually have a bit of a debate about what they mean, rather than have to just look at them on the papers and then just reject them.
Councillor Wells, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just to follow up on the comments from the leader in relation to what is infrastructure support. It is exactly what's included in your portfolio holder's actual report, which is fundraising strategy, marketing, PR and accounting, health and safety, all the things that you're saying that you're actually identifying that exist right now. And I actually spoke to the officer who's been working on this today at length, and she was very helpful and able to tell me exactly what was being doing, that they were offering face-to-face support. So the question really about having it in the plan is to actually celebrate the fact this is being done and to recognise the fact that the voluntary and community faith sector really are equal partners as we go forward. I think it's really missing in the local plan to only talk about the voluntary and community faith sector in relation to the HAF or the healthy eating. It's great that that's in there, but I do think that if you look at strategies across the rest of the country, you always have the voluntary and community and faith sector there featuring as a reminder that they are really, really critical to the way we work as we go forward. So I would just like to reiterate that perhaps you get rid of the word infrastructure and maybe say targeted support, if that's the word you don't like, but I do find it a little bit strange because it is actually what you've actually listed in your own report. Thank you very much.
Councillor Bolsher, please.
Hello, Councillor Vincent. You discussed the rail as though it is a topic that we've never discussed before. I don't know how I've been fighting for rail since 2015 when I was first elected as a town councillor. Fleetwood needs infrastructure. Fleetwood needs rail. If you put light rail there, how can that help the industry? It may help people getting in and out of the town slightly, but if you put a heavy rail where you can have freight rail, or the tram train where you can put freight on it, there's more chance of Fleetwood's infrastructure improving. That's all I've got to say because I'm fuming. I'm fuming, Michael, you don't want me.
Is there any other questions? No. Councillor Fayl, as the proposer of the amendment, would you please respond to the debate?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The amendments before you are self-explanatory, but just to re-emphasise the importance of the return of the rail line and the absolute need to future-proof the eventual extension of the line into the centre. This is the right thing to do for residents, it's the right thing to do for tourism, the right thing to do if Lord Street is to revive itself, and the right thing to do to seriously tackle the employment and income issues. He says we haven't dealt with them, and how are we going to tackle these deprivation issues? Well, what was that speech about? That's how we start tackling these things. We need infrastructure into Thornton, Cleveland's, Carlton, Thornton, Cleveland's and Fleetwood. We will all benefit from this in due course. It's the right thing to do. Wyre suffers from so many issues, and we need to start tackling them. We can't continue to brush those under the carpet. It's seriously affecting the quality of people's lives. And just to answer one of Councillor Vincent's questions, he says it's almost as though the leader doesn't want the council to be judged by these deprivation figures. It's those figures that should drive you on and make you want to do these things to get those figures down, because we shouldn't have 6, in fact 7 wards in terms of health deprivation in the bottom 10%. It's terrible for the people of this borough, and it's about time we started addressing it.
So we're now going to move on to the amendments. We're obviously going to take these one at a time. So those in favour...
Sorry, Madam Mayor, could we have a recorded vote, please?
Well, we need 4 councillors to support that, please.
I support that.
Can we have one? Just to get the same answer on all 4. Just have one. Wouldn't be all that. Yeah, we're going to get the same answer on all 4.
That's the 4, yeah, 4 of them are done together. Right, so we're going to go on to obviously the item 1, those in favour of item 1 of the amendment.
All 4. All 4.
Change the vote.
Right, now voting on the amendment of all 4. So those in favour, please show.
So we're going to vote.
Yeah,
We're doing all 4.
Are we doing it
Individually.
Doing it individually.
So we're calling out the 4 items.
That's it.
Together.
Together. Do you want it together? Yeah.
We'll accept them together.
Okay, so I will read out the name of each councillor in turn in alphabetical order. When your name is called, would you please state how you wish to vote on the proposed motion, either for, against or abstain?
For everyone. For.
So, Councillor Amos.
Against.
Councillor Lady Dulcie Atkins.
Against.
Councillor Sir Robert Atkins.
Against.
Councillor Baxter.
Against.
Councillor Beavers.
For.
Councillor Belshaw.
For.
Councillor Berry.
Against.
Councillor Blair.
For.
Councillor Bolton.
Against.
Councillor Bowen.
Oh, against.
You're going forward.
Councillor Partridge.
Against.
Councillor Cattrall.
Against.
Councillor Collinson.
Against.
Councillor Duffy. For. Councillor Ellison.
Against.
Councillor Fail.
For.
Councillor Higginson.
For.
Councillor Hicks.
Against.
Councillor Ibbotson.
Against.
Councillor Jackson.
Against.
Councillor Lamarinell.
Against.
Councillor Lee. Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor Mackay.
Against.
Councillor Meekins.
Against.
Councillor Minto.
Against.
Councillor Nichols. Councillor Preston. Councillor Rendell.
Against.
Councillor Rimmer.
For.
Councillor Robinson. Councillor Rushforth.
For.
Councillor Stevenson.
For.
Councillor Swatton.
For.
Councillor Swift.
Against.
Councillor Thulis. Councillor Vincent. Councillor A. Walker.
For.
Councillor C. Walker. For. Councillor Wells.
For.
The amendment is lost, so we'll now therefore continue with the debate of the original motion.
More amendments on that.
Good evening, and thank you for all the hard work that's gone into the draft Council Plan 24 to 28. It's a key document, and it's clear that a lot of thought has gone into it, with very many positives outlined for the residents of Wyre. I have two short points to raise with regards to the plan. The first is on our commitment under being innovative and customer focused, where we state we wish to build trust in the council by engaging with our customers and delivering on our promises. This is excellent and very much welcomed, particularly at the moment as many residents seem to have concerns that as a council we don't always listen enough to their views. We hear this in particular in discussions about planning, the development of the borough and infrastructure. The areas where people live are changing and residents don't always seem happy about the direction this is taking. I recognise that the council already works very hard to engage with residents, but this can always be improved. For example, the consultation with residents on this plan and the 10-year vision we mentioned does seem top-down rather than bottom-up. The equality impact statement talks of previous consultation exercises being fed into the development of the plan, such as the Life in Wyre surveys, various town centre regeneration plans, but there was nothing I could see focusing on this plan itself, and after we meet tonight there seems to be no process to ensure residents are happy or will confirm the decisions we've taken this evening. And whilst we identify resident satisfaction with the council, including on value for money as indicators to measures for our success, there isn't much detail included. The other big issue for me is our commitment under place and climate to ensure that our towns and villages are supported by integrated infrastructure. Again, this is excellent because it seems to be an important concern for many residents who have been worried about increases in traffic, roads, new builds, access to doctors, schools and hospitals. Of course, this is not possible for Wyre to address alone, as many aspects of infrastructure are not under Wyre's remit. But there doesn't seem to be details in our plan that directly address this very important issue that we have included ourselves. So I did include two amendments that I thought were linked on ensuring that we increase participatory decision making with residents at a more strategic level, and that we commit to showing residents, or at least laying out how we can influence and support integrated infrastructure development. Now, I recognise that Councillor Vincent's already said it's very late tonight to make amendments, and we should have engaged earlier, so apologies if I missed an opportunity previously. But if we believe that engaging with our residents and building trust with our council is important, I believe that the headings are already in the plan to do this work, and financial costs would be limited. We had a training earlier today about overview and scrutiny, and although I hope my amendments will be carried, I'm not confident they will be. If they are, I'm very grateful, but if not, I would like to ask members to consider taking these issues forward as task forces under the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, because I think it's very important to the future of our council. Thank you very much.
Is there a seconder for the amendment that has been proposed? Thank you. Does any members that wish to speak against the amendment? Councillor Vincent, would you like to?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm afraid I don't consider these to be valid amendments, just because an amendment by its very definition is you take out one word or you put one word in, then it goes in. I don't see where this fits into the council plan. I'd seek some advice on that first, because it's not clear if we pass this what happens to the council plan, so it's not a valid amendment.
Yes,
just to respond to that, I think we would need to do, if this was passed as an amendment, we would need to do some additional work with the wording to feed that into the plan under the headings, as Councillor Ramirez said.
But then I would argue it's not a valid amendment, because if we accept the amendment and then pass the plan with the amendment, what happens to the council plan? It's passed with wording that we haven't approved. It can't happen. It would have to, if we accept, we could only defer the plan and then come back later once the wording has been proposed. It's not a valid amendment, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, can I make a suggestion? Can I suggest that perhaps Councillor Rimmer has, if we spend the next half an hour putting these into valid amendments, that we would probably look to vote them down anyway. Can I suggest that, given that Councillor Rimmer has said that she would be happy for the overview and scrutiny to look at these, that I ask Councillor Cartridge to put it on the agenda for the overview and scrutiny committee, and that perhaps she withdraw them? Would that be a compromise?
Are you, Councillor Rimmer, are you happy for that?
Do you want to say something?
Councillor Fail then?
Before we go any further, I agree with the sentiments of what that says, but I also understand what Councillor Vincent says about the structure of the amendment. What I would say is that paragraph 3.2 recommendation is to authorise the Chief Executive to make any final amendments in consultation with the Leader of the Council. So what I would say is about the sentiment of that suggested amendment. I think it is a valid amendment personally. It's not for me to judge, but I think it's a valid amendment, and I think if we seek to approve this, then it in consultation with the Chief Executive and the Leader of the Council, I'm sure they can come up with some final wording that meets the sentiment of Councillor Rimmer's amendment.
I'll come back to you, Councillor Rimmer.
I was only going to point out 3.2 as well, but I would, if it doesn't go through, I'd be happy for it to go on the agenda for the scrutiny, overview and scrutiny too. Thank you.
Withdrawing that amendment.
As I think Councillor Vincent said, it would be voted down, so I'll withdraw. And I don't know. I mean, can we vote on it first and then put it on the agenda, or is that possible? Yeah. Well, then let's vote, and if it doesn't go through, it can go on the agenda.
We're withdrawing this.
Just to be clear, Madam Mayor, it was a proposal that we do one or the other. It wasn't a proposal that we would do. That's fine. If we're going to have the debate, that's fine. Madam Mayor, it's not a valid amendment. We can try and use the rules as much as we want to try and say that the spirit of it is fine, and we can then make wording. If amendments are brought forward, we should be able as a council to debate, like the Labour Group have done. It's quite clear what would happen to the council plan. We have to be able to debate what the plan will look like if this goes in. It's not satisfactory for us to then have to go away and me have to write the amendment basically for them with the Chief Executive. So leave that alone. Madam Mayor, we consulted in May. It was called an election. We'll be voting against it.
Councillor Cartridge.
Thank you, yes. I feel it's far better it comes to overview and scrutiny, because I think it will get the attention that it deserves, and it's something which can be, discussed there, but I think in this forum, I don't actually understand what a vote is actually going to do.
Just
going to the vote now. We'll now move to the vote on the amendment. Those in favour, please show. Those against? The amendment is lost, so we'll therefore continue to debate the original motion. We'll just move to the vote, please. So those in favour?
No, this is the plan, so the amended plan.
Those against? Any abstentions? The recommendation is approved. Councillor Kay, would you please introduce the report and propose a recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the report's before members, and I would like to propose the recommendations of 3.1 and 3.2 to take any questions.
Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you. Any comments, questions or amendments? Councillor A. Walker, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's on 5.9.3, more on page 80 than 79. I noted when I read it some investments in Qatar, 3 and 6 months, and I'm sure I know the diversifying in Qatar is probably a good product that we're following for our good stewardship. But it did surprise me it got through any sort of ethical investment policy. I just wondered if you could confirm, do we have an ethical investment policy, and if so, did we follow that?
I've been advised that no, we don't have an ethical policy and we don't want one either, apparently. I would add to this though that we have got, you know, a very successful history with our investments, but no, as you might we don't follow a policy.
Children or blowing up houses, doesn't matter.
Can I follow up?
Yes, sorry,
Sorry, well, I'm sadly not surprised the aside from Councillor Vinton, but I know it's on the approved list, but I don't think Qatar fits the values of the citizens of our borough, or even most of the people sitting in this room. And there are plenty of other products that we could get at just a good return, or even better. So I think it would fit the morals and values of the chamber and the citizens of Wyre if we did actually pursue at some point an ethical investment policy. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and comments noted.
Any more questions? Yes,
I'm going to have to come back on that very quickly, Madam Mayor. The problem is, Councillor, whose ethics, whose standards, where do we set it? It's a very difficult question. It's a very difficult thing to actually properly implement. The Qatar investments have been on there for a long time, and until the World Cup in December last year, Qatar was somewhere that people didn't really even know about. And yeah, they have some pretty abhorrent rules when it comes to the treatment of LGBT plus people, etc. And they have some pure human rights record. The difficulty is when you're investing public money is you do have a duty to get the best possible return. So I don't make the comment sort of glibly that we don't have one, we don't get one. It's not an easy thing to put together. It's difficult to say what we're okay with, what are we not, how far do you go, etc. I'll take it on board, we'll have a conversation about it, but even if we had a policy, it's not definite that Qatar wouldn't pass it.
Can I just answer? Thank you, Councillor Vincent, for that, and I'd appreciate if you did take it into some consideration. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, that concludes the debate. Would members please vote now on the recommendation 3.2. Those in favour, please show. Those against? Any abstentions? The recommendations are approved. The next item is item 10, the localised council tax support scheme. Councillor McKay, would you please introduce the report and propose a recommendation?
Yep, the report's before members, and I propose a recommendation at 3.1.
Okay, any questions? Oh, sorry, can I have a seconder please for that, please?
Second it, Madam Mayor.
Sorry about that. Any questions? No? That concludes the debate, so would members please vote now on the recommendation? Those for favour, please show. That's a unanimous decision, thank you. The recommendations are approved. The next item is the Barkston Master Plan, Neighbourhood Plan. So Councillor Marinell, would you please introduce the report and propose a recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Reports before Council and happy to go with the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a seconder for the proposal? Thank you. Is there any comments, questions or amendments? Councillor Fayle?
Yeah, just an observation really. I think it's a very unfortunate term that you're highlighting BNP policies in this document. we will be supporting it, but we don't support BNP policies, obviously.
Yeah.
Nor do we.
You want to respond there?
Actually, when it first came up, I looked at it and thought the same thing. So I wonder whether somebody might comment eventually. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So that's it. Now we'll go to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Okay, that's a unanimous decision. Recommendations are approved. So the next item is item 12, appointments to committees, panels and groups. Yes, Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce it onto the report and propose a recommendation?
You've got the report in front of you, everybody. Happy to propose the recommendations.
Okay, is there a seconder, please?
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions, comments or amendments? No. Okay, we'll go straight to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Okay, that's looked like a unanimous decision, so the recommendations are approved. The next item is item 13, the dispensation of the non-attendance at council meetings. Councillor Andrea Kay. Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report, propose a recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, it's not a nice report to bring forward. Unfortunately, Councillor Kay is still extremely unwell. She's extremely popular councillor in Pheasants Wood and also the county seat. And I know that the residents will want to back just as much as we do. And this just gives her a bit of time to get well. And hopefully she'll be back in here before the meeting of the council on the 16th of May.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for the proposal?
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments, questions or amendments? So, go to the vote. Oh, sorry, Councillor Belshaw, sorry. And I've got
It's alright. I just wanted to say that we wish Andrea Kay speedy recovery.
Yes. Thank you. So would members please vote on the recommendation? Those in favour, please show. That's another unanimous decision. Thank you very much. So the recommendation is approved. The next item is item 14, a periodic report. The lead member for the older people. So Councillor Amos, would you please introduce the report?
The report is before you. I'll try and answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Councillor Amos? No, I think the report is noted. So the next item is item 15, notice of motion. This motion has been submitted by Councillors Martin, Belshaw, Rayner and Fielding and is set out in full under agenda item 15. So Councillor Martin, would you please propose the motion, and you have a maximum of 5 minutes to do so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to propose this motion. Would you like me to read it out, or
No.
are you okay with that?
No.
We can all read it. Okay.
Read it out.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, it actually states.
You want to read it?
Yeah.
All right.
It actually states. Wyre Council's own stated corporate priorities include a commitment to work with partners to reduce antisocial behaviour. In line with this, and in order to improve public safety, quality of life for Wyre residents, this council resolves to call upon all local members of Parliament to seek a ban on general fireworks sales, restricting their sale and use in relation to organised public events only. To request the Chief Executive writes to the UK Government, urging them to introduce legislation to restrict the sale and use of fireworks in relation to organised public events only, to limit the maximum noise, to limit the use of fireworks on or close to specific dates and times, to licence all public firework displays and ensuring displays are better advertised to the public.
Okay, thank you for That's Councillor Belshaw. I understand you're going to second the motion.
Yes, that's right. I second the motion and reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So would there any members who wish to speak for or against the motion? Yes, the purpose amendments, please indicate. So Councillor Vincent, 5 minutes, thank you.
I won't need that, Madam Mayor. I'll be very brief.
Right.
We haven't got a group position on this, it's personal choice. My own view is I don't support banning things. I think that there are lots of people around the country live in places where they can't get to public firework display. If you banned it, they wouldn't be able to have one at their properties. I don't support banning things because a minority of people can't be trusted. Antisocial behaviour is given as the grounds to support this. You'd ban alcohol if you were going to ban something that causes antisocial behaviour. We're not going to write to the ministers asking for that anytime soon, I'm sure. So I don't support it. I'll be voting against it, but it's up to our group how they want to vote.
Thank you. Councillor Marinell, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not for banning things either, but I would rather have silent fireworks would be a better idea rather than loud fireworks. I've got a dog. My dog absolutely loves fireworks. Watches them all the time. She thinks they're absolutely brilliant. But banning things is not a way to go down. It's much rather than silent. Thank you, Madam.
Okay. And Councillor Beavers.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I believe that they should be banned. I've had dogs all my life, but my last dog, which was a rescue dog, was absolutely petrified for weeks and weeks, because it goes on for weeks and weeks. And I've also got friends that were in the forces, that those that have served in Iraq and in Iran, and have got problems with fireworks as well. And even my husband from Northern Ireland, you know, if an exhaust goes off, he hits the deck wherever we are. So it's not something, you know, it's got massive impact on lots of people. So, and I just believe organised displays, you can take your dog away and you can protect him, but when they're going off at all hours of the day and night and everything else, my daughter's dog was at my house this time. We unfortunately lost our dog. It was absolutely distraught over bonfire night. It was awful. I've never seen anything like it. And if you saw them, you know, and organised displays, I get that, they're safer, but I really do believe that it's something that if we don't stand up now and shout about it and start to protect our veterans and our animals and everything else, you know, we're supposed to love animals and we're supposed to look after our veterans. Well, this is one step of trying to protect them, and so I totally disagree with Councillor Vincent's take on it, and so I'd just like to put that forward, and hopefully people that love dogs will vote with me and like the veterans as well.
I don't like dogs.
Councillor Berry. You might like veterans.
Yeah, well, I fully understand the thinking behind this motion. I'm going to vote against it myself. As far as I'm concerned, there has been, most people nowadays want to try and go to a community event, an organised community event for a firework display. And youngsters especially are now celebrating Halloween rather than bonfire night, to be quite honest. So I think interest in fireworks is waning. My only fear is that if this was publicised, that this was going to happen, my fear is there will be an increase in sales of fireworks to prove a point. And furthermore, if there was a ban, then the further fear would be that fireworks would suddenly arrive into this country from abroad, and that would promote illegal use. We do have a control system for the sale of fireworks, and I'd rather have that in place and rely on the natural movement to go towards community displays of fireworks. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I move the vote be taken.
Can I second that?
I'll bring you in a moment.
Thank you.
I think what we've got to do a little bit here is look at how things have progressed in our lives in terms of seatbelts, in terms of drink driving, things that were acceptable that are no longer acceptable. In my youth, not long ago, there were plenty of bonfires, there were plenty of fireworks, and the big problem then was injury. We've moved on from that now with having, you know, displays, but there are lots of problems. You are effectively allowing people to have access to explosives. And that is not right, and it does go on for weeks. And I am a dog owner, but I also have livestock. I have a total of 52 animals, horses included, sheep included. They can be terrified and terrorised by stupid behaviour. And unfortunately, I do feel that if something is as dangerous as an explosive, it should be very much restricted to organised events. Thank you.
Councillor Martin, the proposer of the motion, would you please respond to the debate? Thank you.
Yeah, I did reserve the right to speak.
Quickly,
Mary first.
Mary first.
Thank you.
Right, I personally used to love fireworks, but they've got louder, they've got bigger, they've got scarier, and my dog has fits. Your dog loves them. They can go to a public display with you and you can enjoy them. We're not asking to ban fireworks. What we're asking for is to restrict the sale of fireworks, for you to support us, to ask the government to restrict the sale of fireworks to around specific times of year. And if people want them the rest of the year, they'll buy them at those times of year. But it might go to, if they saw what happened to the poor animals, to the PTSD sufferers, if these kids that are going out buying them and setting them off down back alleys in the middle of June saw what was happening to the poor animal that's in the garden having a fit because this bang has happened down the alley behind it, then and the PTSD, our poor squaddies are curled up in corners because a firework is going off outside in the alley, and it sounds like something that happened to them while they were fighting, giving their lives, their friends' lives, given up for us to survive in this wonderful country. And people are making it terrible by not looking after themselves, and they're putting fireworks out at any time of year. We used to see them for sale around November the 5th, and that was it. Now it's all year round.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm getting a bit, yes.
You are getting, Councillor
Thank you.
Martin, would you like to, of the motion, would you like to respond to the debate, please? Then we'll go straight to the vote.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, first of all, I'm not a Grinch and I'm not a killjoy. I'm a dad and a granddad with fond memories of bonfire night with my small children. But they're just that at the moment, the memories. Fireworks today aren't Catherine wheels or sparklers, but rather something close to mortar shells. Bonfire night is now bonfire month, at all hours of the day and night, causing unnecessary upset and disruption to too many over an extended period of time. Spare a thought for our brave service veterans impacted by PTSD. Spare a thought for our older people, often frightened by loud fireworks. Spare a thought for the very young.
Thank you, Councillor. Would you let Councillor Martin speak, please?
As a dog owner, I see the devastating impact of loud fireworks on family pets, and I can't even guess at the impact on our wildlife, as the independent member said. In terms of community safety, fireworks put an unnecessary and avoidable strain on our brave and already overstretched firefighters, as the events at Jubilee Garden proved on November the 5th. As well as exposing our emergency services to avoidable danger, the Jubilee fire also impacted local residents, advised to close their doors and windows against toxic fumes, and local businesses who were forced to close and lose trade. Now, in the USA, you need ID and a driving licence to buy a firearm. In this country, you can walk into a shop at age 18 and buy explosives. Names like Atomic Blaster, Sonic Boom. How can this be right? Whilst this council cannot legislate to ban the sale of fireworks to the general public, we can voice our concerns for our community, for our members of parliament, and ask that they act on our behalf in line with this council's own stated priorities to reduce antisocial behaviour whilst improving health and well-being. As a consequence of this, Bonfire Night could be reclaimed as a safe, fun festival. The year is 2023, not 1605. If a ban had been in place this year, the events at Jubilee Gardens would not have happened. So just for once, can we try being proactive and urge all our MPs for a ban? Please support this notice of motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. So that concludes the debate, so we'll now move on to the vote. So those in favour of the motion, please show. Those against?
Is that a standard vote?
Free vote. Free vote.
That's what it looks like.
Standard.
The motion is not carried. So that concludes the business for this evening.
Oh, it's one abstention. Any abstention? Two abstentions. Got one over there. Two.
The motion is not carried. So that concludes